Welcome back to the stage of this year's Singularity Greece Summit, Reimagine. We are here to reimagine the future of energy in Greece with Carlo van de Weijer.
Hi.
Thank you, Carlo, for being with us.
Yeah.
And George Καρακούσης, Deputy CEO, Commercial Operations, PPC. Thank you, George, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
That was an awesome talk, Carlo, as always.
I meant everything what I said. Yeah.
I know. So, Carlo,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, the elephant in the room when it comes to this conversation
Yeah.
of the growth, a planned reduction of energy and resources to use designed to bring the economy back into balance with the living world. I mean, we cannot live on this earth, as you mentioned, and as our previous speakers also mentioned, if we continue to consume more and more. Yet this idea of the growth seems a little bit radical. So what is your point of view?
Yeah, it's good you mention it, and there was a reason that I also said it as an option, but there's three reasons that I don't think it will be the solution. And of course, let me first put, I do not want to advocate that we just use more and more and more resources and more energy. We should not spoil things. We should really take care of what we're using and do more efficiency, etc. But degrowth as a solution to the current challenges is not the solution. There are three reasons for that.
Okay.
The first thing is actually that you see never that degrowth works unless there's a better alternative. Now, that's
always like that.
Yeah, it's like that. I consumed a lot less of encyclopedias, for instance, and I didn't buy a lot of CDs anymore because I have a better alternative now with Wikipedia. And so that's the thing. But if there's not a better alternative, I never in history saw degrowth or just consuming less work. That's the first one. The second one, it's by definition only a partly solution. So if you, for instance, we managed to get 50% less CO2 emissions, we still only solved half of the problem. So it just takes twice as long before hell breaks loose, you know? That's not also, it's a partly solution.
So delay.
It's just a delay. And the third thing why I think, and that's what I would jump, it's also a little bit elitary. What you hear a lot is that from, okay, let's go back from flying an average 4 times per year to back to 2 times per year. But you also want the 80% of the world that never been in an airplane, they should not start it. Because otherwise you still have more aviation. So it's a little bit elitary because you forbid other people to come to our level, etc. So for these three reasons, I do not see really that this is the viable option. Although I must repeat that we, of course, should be always very, very prudent in order to use our resources. But no, we have to innovate ourselves out of this crisis.
Wow. George, we have been talking about radical ideas with Carlo, and I want to ask you, as Deputy CEO of PPC, do you think Greece decarbonization plan is ambitious enough? 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister announced a national green plan, and he said there is only growth is green growth. So are we moving fast enough on this front? What is happening?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. Greece's decarbonization plan is the most aggressive plan in Europe.
Really?
So we are talking about going from, I think it's 23 million tons of CO2 in 2019 down to 5 by 2024.
From 23 to 5.
Yeah, and then completely.
That's super significant.
That is significant, of course it is. And then completely switching off all lignite-fired plants by 2025. But the interesting thing is that at the same time, you need to balance this. So there's an immense appetite for growth when it comes to renewables. So PPC alone is investing in building a huge pipeline. So the idea is that by 2024, we will have 3 gigawatts of installed PVs in the market, and then this will ramp up to even close to 5 by 2026. So essentially, there is a massive investment plan behind this. In the region of billions, it's a 9.3 billion investment plan that we've got in order to decarbonize the economy and at the same time use the right alternatives for the future of our kids, really, and our planet. So it is quite ambitious, it is achievable, and we have, investor support behind it to prove this. And, we're very excited that we're going through this phase, and we have to. And as it's becoming clear, it's already late, so we have to really catch up.
Accelerate
of course.
The pace of change.
Of course.
So, Carlo, you mentioned aviation before.
Yeah,
in
that's
your
important.
slides, and it's very important. And I saw the supersonic and boom and all this renewable and plant-based fuel. So, do you want to give us like a summary or the juice of it?
I gave it some extra attention because it's of course very important for your economy. If we would not be able to fly anymore, it would be
specifically fly in Greece, tourists to fly in Greece.
Yeah. I once came with my car on a holiday in the Peloponnesos, but I was the exception. There's not a lot of Dutch number plates that you see here in Greece. But so it's possible, but you rather fly on a holiday, and that's something. If it would be forbidden, it would be a huge problem for you. But I sincerely think. And that's actually that flying is by far the most sustainable way of transport in 30 years from now.
Wow.
And maybe perhaps already sooner. And the thing is that on the one hand, you have these sustainable aviation fuels. And of course, the great advantage of flying is that you don't need an infrastructure. You need two landing stripes of 2 kilometers and you can fly all over the world. And there's
True, so you don't have to build the expensive roads.
And infrastructure for trains or hyperloops or what have you, they are not scalable. They always connect 2 points, and that's not really flexible. But the thing is, there's a lot of CO2 emission for the concrete and the iron that you need for these infrastructures. So it takes you forever in order to compensate that. But with flying, the two interesting things that happen, the sustainable aviation fuels will be, I think, in due course, cheaper than the current kerosene. And you have actually, it's a very, very, very sustainable flying. And especially the electric flying, so battery with a propeller, it would probably cover all the national flying in Greece. And it's cheaper, and it's very sustainable. And also for the passengers, it will be the cheaper. It's almost as cheap as driving an electric car per passenger kilometer. So that's something that's really going to disrupt the entire mobility system again, with a positive message for Greece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. George, I've heard of 9-point-something billions and technological development. So what are those technological developments relating to energy that you are closely watching and expecting a breakthrough in, and why they're important for BBC in Greece?
Yeah, so what we see happening in the next few years, and it's already happening now, but it's going to boom in the next years, is the change in the relationship between the consumer, the customer, the one who switches on the light, and the energy provider. So we're going to go from what is now sort of a unidirectional relationship. I just want this, I buy this from you, I switch on the light, that's it, into what I like to call a bidirectional bond. So essentially what's going to happen is the consumer will resume more responsibility, will be more of a conscious choice, whatever they do. And we're looking at a set of really lifestyle choices in the form of PVs on the roof, of electrification, of whether it's mobility, whether it's your heating. So all these kinds of technologies are very important in order for the customer to become, more independent and obviously more green. And of course, we're very closely tracking the developments in storage for the houses, batteries and everything. So imagine a world where that customer all of a sudden has a complete power of what they consume and how they consume it, and they can even give back to the grid if they want to, if there's excess. But the amazing thing, I would say the second big area that we're tracking, is that this needs to be very intuitive, very easy to use, very easy to do.
Behavioral economics.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
you cannot force a very complicated algorithm to your average customer. It needs to be, I want to do this, I switch on the light, and I understand the consequences behind this, and I know how this works. So the digitization of the whole of the value chain and making this easy for the customer to use, easy for the information to be digestible and acted upon. This is the second area that we're tracking. So in this world where the customer becomes more independent and everything gets electrified and the experience is easy, this is a world where effectively the green energy will have a bigger share of our everyday lives.
Any thoughts, Carlo?
That's a very exciting future, because in the future, if everything is electrified, and you have 5 million electric cars in Greece, and there's our batteries that there's a potential storage. And now it's just plugging in, and I don't know, probably at night you pay a little bit less than during the day, like in the Netherlands. Yeah. That's just two. But in the future, every second, your energy price might be different. And there's this very smart system, probably, that might even distract some energy from your electrical. So you can sell your electricity that you charged in the night very cheaply and sell it during the
morning,
day.
Yeah.
So these batteries of electric cars are kind of balancing the grid, etc. This is a super exciting system where we can use a lot of intelligence to make it better, but also more stable. You know?
Yeah, and easy to use. Yeah.
And easy to use, and that's true. So
I have to say that I recently got an electric car.
Yeah.
And the experience, you know, of returning back home and plugging in my car instead of going to, you know, get gas, fuel it, is really fascinating, I would say.
It is.
And I would move now from cars to ships.
Ships, that's also very important for Greece.
Yes, very important for Greece. We know shipping has has been focused first because of the global shortages across the world, but also you talk about and David talk about like full sustainable ships that they go like autonomous ships. So what is happening there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the current ships are already largely autonomous, and they are driving assistance, etc. But I think if you look at the shipping, first let me tell you that a lot of people dreamt because now because of the COVID, people want to more produce locally. We don't need so many ships anymore. The opposite happened. People didn't went on holiday. They went dining less. They spent less on drinks, etc. So they had a lot of money, and they start buying stuff. So this was not really degrowth of consuming less. So we needed even more containers and stuff from all over the world, and that's why there immediately is a shortage on both resources and ships. That's the thing. So the thing is that we need ships for the future still. Again, the thing is that how to fuel them and to move them. I think certainly on a local level we have battery ships, especially if you just can load and unload a container. So on the rivers, the river ships, you don't have so much here, but maybe already the cruises and the ferries, etc. The short distances. For the longer distance, probably we will also use these synthetic fuels. Because the thing is with ships, they have engines that last for 70, 80 years maybe. Yeah? So it's kind of relatively old engines. And you do not want to replace this huge installed base with other engines. So if you can use a fuel that can also perform in the current ships and have no real emission problem.
Like a green fuel.
That's again...
Like hydrogen could be one.
Yeah, hydrogen would be one. But then you also have to probably change your entire drivetrain system. So if you just make the extra step, which costs you a little bit of energy, but I think the efficiency is not a problem, it's more the cost of transferring in the future, then probably we'll make an artificial kind of ship diesel that they also run actually climate neutral, but you can still use the old ships.
Wow.
I would put my money on that trajectory. So you have again, also your ferry system can be made sustainable.
We should make a fund and start investing, Carlo.
That's what I should invest in, this kind of energy,
Yeah. So, George, I want to ask you this. So, what is the impact of the current higher price? Because, you know, if you open the newspaper, every front page is about the crisis, the energy, the price. So how this affects the trajectory of the renewable energy adoption? Is there an effect, and what is it about?
I think... you know, we're not short of crises the last few years, are we?
No, we are not.
What we all noticed is that, you know, crises, they have dreadful effects in several cases, like COVID and everything. But what we witnessed in the country was a huge adoption of very positive trends. So one was digitization, of course. A number of things became sort of more digital than before, and we, especially in Greece, where we really needed to catch up. I think we did so in a great way. And equally, there were changes on the way we work. And that, again, was a huge leap forward for the country. Yeah. I think this crisis, what it does is, I think it acts like an accelerator for adoption of renewables, because simply, I think we have the realization that the reason that we're facing this is because we haven't already acted fast enough. So yes, we're going through a challenging period, which we hope that will sort of die down in the next few months. But I think this has helped everybody realize that, yes, we should act faster, we should build more renewables, we should make sure that we rely more on ourselves than other complicated, let's say, challenges. So yeah, I think this will end up being positive at the end.
Wow, that's very hopeful. That's very hopeful. Carlo, I have two questions for you. One mine and one from the audience. The control will repeat the questions for the audience.
Curious.
And by the time they do that, I have to ask you the first one. So what are the biggest challenges and bottleneck in the fight against climate change? You know, we have just one planet. We have just, we are a spaceship. So how we can keep it healthy, how we cannot destroy it?
I think there's one clear answer to that. It's one of the reasons that I work at the university, because I think it's not the technical possibilities. I showed you what's possible on a technology thing, we can make that. It's also not the budget. As I said, we need 2% of GDP of the entire world in order to make the transfer for the next 20 to 25 years. So also Greece reserve 2% for the transition, give 1% to the electricity company of GDP and the other percent to startups, etc. So seriously, that's how there's money enough. There's technology possibilities enough. The only thing is if we have enough people in order to do this. We need engineers, students to help us come up with this. We need more people studying technology in order to help us. So the number of human resources will be the bottleneck. And the nice thing is that if I would be a student now and I could choose between, like in the Netherlands, we have a company, I talked about this to Laurie, we have a company making chicken slaughter robots, you know. A live chicken comes in and a packaged parcel of meat comes out. They have a hard time to really convince people to come and work for them, because that's not really very motivating to make it 3.5 chicken per second instead of 3 chickens per second. What are we talking about? If you can work at a company and seriously mean that, not just to please you, but if you can work on this transfer of energy, that's a much better job to have.
Fascinating.
So try to also spread the word that it's possible and that we need students in order to come and help George and his team in order to make the transfer. And that's what we need. The bottleneck will be the number of people and students and girls and boys that come and help us out with this transfer. And also older people coming to join us, everyone.
So it has to do also with purpose, you know, how it's like the ikigai, some people say. So what I can get paid for, what I'm good to, what is my passion and what the world needs now.
It's this big, hairy, audacious goal that we need. People, yes, you have to pay them, but it's not the money that they come from. They come from this purpose, etc.
For the heart.
And this is a huge purpose, so I hope you will be able to indeed attract young people. And
it's very fulfilling to do it. I mean, it's a tough job, but the amount of feedback you get, you're changing basically the way things work. Yes,
electricity companies weren't the most sexy. Sorry to say so. In my time, it weren't the most sexy companies to work for. But if you see what they now are, I hope they will be able to attract more people in order to help you.
George, what do you think lies ahead of fossil fuel-reliant companies like PPC that is transforming now? What is the biggest takeaways of your sustainability journey so far at PPC?
Oh, that's. I'll tell you the first part. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think fossil fuels are going through the last phase of their existence. I think your graph was fascinating. The graph with a spike. It kind of tells it all, I think. So yeah, the sooner the companies invest in other types of energy sources, obviously, the sooner they will make sure that they remain viable. But the bit about the takeaway that you mentioned, besides the fact that this is a fascinating journey and it's really fulfilling to go through this amazing transformation of really everything that's related to energy, I would say the one thing that is very exciting for us is when you look at what the customers say, what the customers need, you usually, when you do research, you see, I want a good price, I want a very good customer experience, which is very important, as we said earlier. but it's becoming very clear that they need green solutions. So green solutions and green products have gone up the ladder of the hierarchy of needs, and they're very much up there. Now, the fascinating thing is that, yes, the adoption of things that we do is really high. So we launched a couple of products, and the adoption is really high and is really promising. But what we also see is that people now need to be handheld through this process of transformation. So our role as an energy provider goes from just the providing bit into the consulting bit. So we need to be there, we need to be technically advanced, and we need to help people understand what it is that they understand they need and how they can achieve it in their day-to-day life. So they need to reimagine their relationship with an energy provider. Yeah.
So do you, see PPC becoming like a platform that delivers not only energy, but also consulting for the individual of the home, carbon?
Yeah, no, what we want to do
Print.
is we want to move into an area where people can come to us for advice on how to build. I was talking to somebody just now. How should I build my roof? Can I put a PV on the top? What does it mean? Where can I find a good price for this?
Okay.
Is it okay if I put a heat pump in there? How will it work together? We need to be there to explain this to customers and explain this new model.
So it's not only PPC transforming, but it's also PPC transforming into a consultant of the consumers on how they can transform their energy consumption, the type and the ways they do.
Yes.
This is so very interesting.
It is very interesting. The idea is that we will have a deeper relationship with the customer and a wider relationship on a number of things. And yes, a platform is a very good word for that. We're a platform for energy, yeah.
Yeah. So, Carlo, I've heard from the control the question from the audience. And I'm thinking, you mentioned in your presentation like the million stations for carbon capture.
Yeah.
So I have a question from the audience that says, is carbon capture installation, are they sustainable? Yeah. So we can deploy them in a massive scale?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's the right question, because if they consume more energy than you then...
And affordable also.
Yeah, and affordable. The affordable, yes. So the point is...
what is the cost of a station like this?
Yeah, you know what the cost was of the first automobile? That was the first iPhone was hugely expensive. Of course, what I showed was this very first kind of prototype that's now in Iceland, and there's a second one in Switzerland. But there's also now an X prize, Peter Diamandis, and with money from Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, it's 100 or 120
million if you come up with the best scalable CO2. So there's a lot of push now in order to come up with better technologies. And that's how you look at this carbon capture. It's in the beginning phase. Exactly. It's a challenge, but even with this current system, it would theoretically be possible to already do the job for the entire world. So if you need 1 million out of these, and they also consume, because there are electric fans, etc., in order to draw the air, they consume electricity. So it costs you a little bit extra electricity and a bit of your total efficiency. You have to put more solar cells also to get them to work in this new fuel factory. But actually, in the end, that bit of energy that it costs, it will make your transport much, much cheaper, etc., and the storage much, much cheaper. So you will earn it back. So it's a closed business case for the future that you will have, even involving this extra energy and all the stuff that you need to build this kind of carbon capturing machines. It's probably still cheaper to make the fuel than to pump it up and refine it. Because talking about scale, if you would add all the refinery installations on the world together, you would also cover Rhodos 3 times, you know?
Really?
So I might exaggerate a little bit, but it's unbelievable what we built on a refinery system. That's also, you cannot imagine how many square kilometers that is. And we managed to build that in the last decades. So again, if we can build 1 billion cars in the next 10 years, why not be able to build 1 million of these kind of things? That's easier. So, and again, this is the prototype. I think the definite will be much smaller, better, more efficient. It gets
smaller, better, faster, cheaper, we know
so
that
we have to build trees, but then the artificial kind of trees. Trees are very good in taking CO2 out of the air, but
You said like 230 trees per
per person and 200 per person. You could also plan 200 persons that we also get, but that's a 2 trillion. I did the calculation on the back of an envelope.
It didn't work.
It's extra trees. It's not on top of what we already have. So
yes,
that's a bit too much. So technology.
Thank you both for being here. Any closing thoughts, remarks, ideas on how we can reimagine a better, cleaner planet and more democratic, distributed energy to people without the impact?
Maybe one positive note, because I said already a lot of things, and I do really believe that it's possible. That's the thing, if we have enough people to do it. So convince your nephew, or yourself, or your children, etc., to work with them or somebody else that's making the transition. That's one thing. But the other positive thing is that, you know, this green thing, it used to be a little bit left side, hippie, alternative kind of things where a lot of people were motivated just because they wanted to create a better world, blah, blah, the dreamer world, with all respect. But now it's becoming hard business. So you see now it comes into a flow. It's also economically better to be green. And then things move fast. So I'm sincerely, but I have to be as an engineer, but I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I was in a conference last week with Paul Polman, and his point of view is like net positive, not just zero.
No, we have net positive means that we correct what we did in the last 100 years.
Exactly, also give back.
Yeah, so we have to even produce a little bit more fuel, maybe pump it back in the ground or something. I don't know if that's the thing. But net positive, that's positive. The thing.
George, any closing remarks, thoughts on how we can move forward and reimagine a better future?
Yeah, no, your optimism is contagious. So I'm an engineer as well, so I share the same optimism when it comes to technology. I think that the one thing we should all take a step back and realize is that now is the time. There's no tomorrow. We have to do it now, and everybody can make a difference. So go out, look at what green stands for. Come to us for advice. And make sure you make the difference as well. If each of us tries to make a difference towards that direction, we're going to accelerate the path towards a greener planet.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you all of you for being with us this great morning at Singularity University. In Greece, we are taking a few minutes break, 45, and we will be back at 2 o'clock. Stay tuned. Thank you.